Hey, we're back. We're gonna have a really quick one here. We're gonna do best music of 2020. I'm sure this won't take long at all. And Sam, if you say Halo, I'm gonna smack you.
I didn't even consider it, Asif. But if we want to talk about it,
Oh no,
I'm
we
just
don't.
kidding. I'm just
Okay,
kidding.
okay, we don't.
If I may throw out a serious nomination though.
Yeah, sure.
Ghost Runner. I absolutely adored that indie title, and I think that the soundtrack does a brilliant job at heightening the overall experience. As you're slicing and dicing your way through dudes with your katana, deflecting bullets, slowing down time, wall running throughout the entire experience. There's just this.
This game is kind of like a spiritual successor to Mirror's Edge. Is that?
Yeah, it's kind of like
right?
Mirror's Edge meets Super Meat Boy.
Okay.
Set in a cyberpunk style world. The genre, not the game.
Cyberpunk existed before CD Projekt Red decided.
I know. I just wanted to clarify, just in case anyone thought that I was talking about the actual game that just released.
Got it.
Yeah, I just think
cool.
that the music just really sets it up, man, and yeah, it just really helps.
You know, I listened to
experience.
You gave us a clip in Slack before we started recording. I listened to it. I do like the music, and I hear what you're saying, where how they intertwine the level design with the sound, the music really well, so it just enhances the gameplay feel. But you know, I can only listen to synthwave so much before I'm just like.
That's
you know what I mean?
It's not everyone's cup of tea. I write synthwave, so it helps me get through the day.
No, I obviously
rhythm.
love listening to electronic music, but there's something about synthwave specifically. I just feel like it gets repetitive at times.
Fair enough.
But cool. That's a good nomination. Anybody else with a nomination?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go on my tirade. I won't go to bat too much for this game because I know a lot of people aren't into the style, but I do gotta say, Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, incredible soundtrack. One of the things about Koei Tecmo and Omega Force when they do Warriors games is that they often do some kind of variation of what I would call butt rock. Which is just like generic background heavy metal music on all of their levels. Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity takes the style of music that was already in The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild and creates action like intense music that fits that aesthetic so incredibly well. I love Breath of the Wild music. It makes me feel happy, it makes me feel sad, it makes me feel weepy, it makes me feel like lighthearted and chill. There are so many good things about Breath of the Wild music, and they captured it so very well in Age of Calamity. The character themes are some of my favorite music of the entire year, in a year that's chock full of amazing music. I love Hades, I love Ghost of Tsushima, I love Final Fantasy VII Remake. Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity was the game that made me take my Switch to my PC, plug it into a charger, and actually plug headphones into my Nintendo Switch, because thankfully there's a music player in game. I wish this soundtrack was on a CD or like a downloadable format that I could literally just put it on my computer and listen to it all the time.
Thank you for bringing that up. What the fuck's wrong with Nintendo? Why won't they sell soundtracks?
Yeah.
They never do.
I absolutely love this soundtrack with all of my heart, inside and outside of the game. I think it's incredible as a Zelda soundtrack. I think it's incredible as a Warriors soundtrack. I think it's incredible as a soundtrack in general. It's my favorite music of the year. It wasn't even close. Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity all the way.
Nintendo not only doesn't sell soundtracks, like they're actively taking down people who upload soundtracks to YouTube.
Yeah.
So nobody can have anything.
Yeah.
Nobody can have nice things.
It's not just fan uploaded soundtracks, Ozzy. Lo-fi remixes of soundtracks are being C&D'd now, and like that's something I really enjoy doing, is like listening to like some lo-fi Zelda music or something, and all that stuff is being
The DMCA is just out of control, but that's another story.
It truly is, but it's just to TJ's point, like I wish I could buy Nintendo soundtracks on iTunes. Like I would, and this sounds like the kind of game that I would do that for.
If I want to make a nomination, I guess I would say Final Fantasy VII Remake really got me into that game. And I still constantly hear the Encounters music on a loop in my brain. And just the way it sets a mood, whether you're in a town or whether you're at that moment in the middle of the story, like that music really knows how to set a mood. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't a Final Fantasy VII guy going into that game, but part of the reason that I came out of it a believer was that soundtrack. So I definitely want to give it a nomination.
Nice. It's very deserving of that.
It's definitely, it immerses you extremely well in the game.
To Ozzy's point, though, like I can hear a Final Fantasy VII remake song and know what part of the game, was happening. Like what was happening, and I just feel like that's important.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. It's definitely up there for me as well.
And I guess to go to different, to kind of segue to one of our other nominations, Miles Morales Spider-Man. Spider-Man Miles Morales is a different kind of soundtrack than what we got in the Game of the Year a couple years ago. Like, there was a cinematic feel in like that first Spider-Man game. This is a completely different one in that it sets the tone of exactly who Miles is and exactly what his world is. Like Harlem is a very different place than Manhattan. And the soundtrack is a major key to kind of differentiating the two. So I definitely want to throw that out there too.
I love how the music kicks in at like the perfect time in that game. Like you're like, you're having a conversation on the rooftop with someone, then you just jump off, and then it just slowly kind of fades in, and the beat starts coming in. It's great. It's extremely well mixed into the environment.
Yeah,
and it's excellent. Yeah, this is a tough category. Like we were talking about before we went online, when we started recording this, but. It's a lot of really good soundtracks out there this year. A lot of really good music in game.
I want to shout out Fuser. I mean, that game revolves around music, and it's insane because Call Me Maybe seems to go great with Rage Against the Machine's Killing in the Name of.
Call Me Maybe goes with anything.
It's crazy. Like, first of all, it's a really eclectic mix of songs.
Has anyone mixed Call Me Maybe with the Guile theme yet?
No, but it'd probably be the song that went with everything. That would be played at my funeral. If that happened.
Mix the Call Me Maybe theme with the Guile theme, and it's like crossing proton packs in Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, you're not supposed to cross streams, TJ.
And I know that some people might think that Fuser's a bit of a cheat because it has a licensed soundtrack, but the way it implements that soundtrack and the way it lets you make your own creation and the results of your creation, like I definitely would put Fuser out there.
Oh no, it definitely deserves to be at least nominated here because it goes beyond just the music's playing in the background, or even like I'd say it's even more intense than like a rock band or something because like you get to remix the music in this. I just think that's really unique and different.
Yeah, it's making your own music using other music that already exists in a fun and creative way that makes it accessible to people. I'm really into it. I really like a lot of the stuff I made while playing that game, and the fact that you can even like get to a point where you're adding your own like patterns over things essentially and other stuff like that. It's really cool. It's really it allows you to make your own collages of different songs put together and try different things that seem like an affront to everything good and wonderful and beautiful about music. You get down and dirty, and that's what I really like about it. It's just a lot of fun. Like I spent like an hour just doing my own freestyle mix the first time I ever played Fuser, and I could have kept going, but like I didn't want to torture Greg that much. Like any more than I already did with my content. But Fuser definitely, I think, over everybody. You look at if you go through like the crate they give you essentially of records. It's really impressive just how many good songs they picked out and how many genres that hits, you know, because they could have just like gotten a bunch of electronic stuff and called it a day, but they went all over the place, and it's really cool. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a Fuser.
Cool. Fuser is a solid nomination. Who else has something they want to shout out here?
Anybody?
I think it's time to talk about. So, there's been some great music in games, and we've already put up a bunch of nominations, but I put in a couple of things, but I think the one that I want to nominate the most and like push for the most is honestly probably Wasteland 3. The amount of thought that went into putting together the music that plays over the battles and stuff like that, and in some of the special circumstances, is just fantastic. Like I know when we did our stream the other day, we couldn't play it because of DMCA takedowns and all of that, but like that first like prologue mission that you're playing through, when you get to this big encounter, it kicks in this like kind of rock version of an old like folk religious song. I mean, I guess it's not really a folk religious song, but it's like an old religious song. It's like a kind of a new take on it, and it just fits so well over this battle encounter, and like it just kind of all blends into it and just makes the entire experience feel so much better than it would without it. And I think that took a lot of thought and like a lot of design genius really to kind of line that kind of stuff up perfectly. Like it's very similar to what you guys were talking about with Final Fantasy, is like knowing when you hear the music like what part of the game it is, and like that's just something that stuck with me throughout the entire playthrough of Wasteland 3, is just how well they chose the music for those different encounters.
That song is "Down in the River to Pray" by Elsa Krauss, and that is a huge part of the "Oh Brother War Art" that soundtrack. That's one of the few times I've ever heard a rock rendition of a folksy song that I actually enjoyed and actually liked the way it was used.
Yeah, it just fits so well. Like it's one of those things that if you heard that song anywhere else, it probably wouldn't fit as well or like sound as good, but because of like the nature of the game and the experience, like it just feels really good. But I agree, like there's not many songs like that I enjoy either, TJ, but that one just kind of hit home, and the rest of the music choices did as well.
Nice. Let's see. Let's talk about Bugsnax. Bugsnax has an awesome soundtrack. They actually uploaded it to YouTube, so you can listen to it whenever you feel like it. For a while, I was just pulling up the nighttime theme and just jamming to it. I love it. The themes come back throughout the levels, so like the end of the game is kind of intense, and you get the theme of the game comes back, but it's just like more dramatic rendition of the song, and it heightens the feel of that moment. I just think it's there's another game that I'll mention kind of together, Animal Crossing. Both of these games are 24-hour cycles in the worlds, and the music corresponds to that. So there's like a morning song, there's an evening song. In the case of Bugsnax, each biome has a different song, or at least version. I just think they're both delightful in that sense, and there's a few. Getting back to Bugsnax though, like I just think there's a few songs that were like total earworms, like they were stuck in my head for months after I played that game.
It does a thing that Undertale did well, which is taking a certain chord progression and remixing it into a whole bunch of different ways that sound unique and also good.
Absolutely.
You know, the Bugsnax, they also had that Caro Bonito like theme song, and that was a banger. That was stuck in my head forever.
Yeah, but you know what's weird about it? It's not really in the game.
Yeah, I thought it would be like playing over the opening or something when you start, but no, like I have yet to encounter it personally in the game.
Nah, it's not really. It's at the very end kind of, but it's not really. I wouldn't consider it part of the game. It was more part of the marketing for the game. And hell, good job on the marketing for the game.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? But speaking of like games with banger songs that got stuck in my head, Astro's Playroom, like that GPU song is still stuck in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one of the best songs I've ever heard in a video game ever. Like, from top to bottom, I'm talking like composition, orchestration, lyrics. Like, it hits all the notes. It's got like a funky bass line at some parts. It's just awesome.
Mm-hmm. I also love GPU song, but overall, I think that Astro's kind of falls flat because it's just not a full game. It's like a tech demo.
I know what you mean.
If it was Song of the Year, I would be in your corner here. But if we're looking at a total soundtrack, there's better games out there this year.
Fair enough. I can see that.
Like Streets of Rage 4. Holy shit. What a good soundtrack. That...
If Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity hadn't come out this year,
you would be pounding the table for Streets of Rage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It has no business being that good. The whole game, I feel that way, but especially that soundtrack.
Even the soundtrack in Streets of Rage 4 is full of Easter eggs. There are themes in that game that if you go back and look at the themes from old games, it's derivations of them, and that is just so cool that they actually incorporated riffs and chord progressions from like the original games into some of the new music.
Oh god, it's super cool. Yeah, that game does a really good job of fan service to people who have played the original. It's just delightful. We had a chance to play the whole thing on stream, and the entire time you just heard me, I was like, wow, this song's awesome.
Awesome. Like, even if you didn't know those Easter eggs, the soundtrack by itself is just banger after banger after banger.
Yeah, so props to the Streets of Rage 4 team, that music. This is a tough category this year. So many good... This is different than, like, normally I have, like, a front runner and I just pound the table on it. I have no idea what's going to win this category this year. They're all really good. Like, Final Fantasy 7, come on. What else we got for nominations?
That might be it.
Guess no one wants to speak to Cyberpunk.
I mean, Cyberpunk's got really great music, but I'm just trying to not sit here and talk for 25 minutes about 4 different nominations.
But it's a game that came out this year. It has good music.
Yeah, I mean, the music in it is really good. Like the original soundtrack that the team has put together, it fits really well with the world. And honestly, just like the opening intro song, like anytime I turn the game on, like just sitting on the menu, like I could just sit on the menu and listen to the menu song for, I don't know how long. Like it's energizing, it feels good, and it just goes along really well with the entire experience.
Every one of the musical cues that's a part of a main mission or side mission or whatever have all been fantastic, either to amp up the tension or excitement, action, whatever. I haven't listened to enough of it to get all the licensed stuff through the radio tracks or whatever, but I've liked what I've heard of that. Spent a lot of time on the synthwave station, but just the cues for the missions or quest or whatever they are just outstanding in every way.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Cool. I have one more. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2. I don't have to talk about it very much. You guys know the soundtrack is iconic. It's still really good. They did alter whenever you have your special meter maxed out, they add reverb to everything, and I hate that. But
yeah, I was gonna say I feel like that brings it down a little bit.
It does.
And
that's why I wanted to mention it, because it is a banger soundtrack. Like, there's some really good stuff there. The options for getting, if you hate a song, you don't have to listen to it in that game. I like stuff like that.
I do like that. I will say, like, they made some decent additions of new music, but everybody was in here to hear the music. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I didn't care about any of that new music.
So, this is like the Master Chief collection of soundtracks.
Wow.
Because this is all things that we liked from the original game. That, let's face it, Asif, that effect kind of brings it down a little bit.
It does.
You might be better off just listening to these soundtracks in the original games.
TJ, I mentioned it in my review. I mentioned it in my preview. I was like, this is something that it was a deliberate decision on the part of the game devs that I don't agree with. And it takes away from the overall experience, but still really good soundtrack. Definitely worth mentioning.
For sure.
Is there any other game that we haven't mentioned that needs to be mentioned? Last of Us 2. Eddie Vedder.
Nope.
Wouldn't say it's supposed
Nope.
to be.
Moving on.
Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Great game. Not nominating its soundtrack.
Okay, let's vote then. You guys ready to vote?
I am.
Yeah.
I would like to start off by
I'm
throwing.
staying by Age of Calamity all day long. That, like, the way somebody mentioned something about, like, even in the dull moments, it's good. That's the menu music in Age of Calamity when you're choosing what you're gonna do next is even pretty great. Like, I can just sit there and have that playing in the background for while I'm surfing on my phone.
Sure.
Daruk's theme is fantastic. The Champions themes are fantastic. Everybody has like a flavor to their theme that's so damn good. I love that soundtrack.
Oh,
I gotta vote for not Cyberpunk. Sorry, Ghost Runner.
Ghost Runner.
Final
Okay.
Fantasy.
The FF7 remake.
Final Fantasy.
David's on board with Ozzy. It's hard to argue with that. There's just so much damn music in that.
The music got me so
Yeah.
pumped during that first chapter, especially.
It's
like
epic.
It's so
Okay.
fucking good.
And then what about the musical number you do?
Yeah, the dance number.
Yeah, come
Mhm.
on. That's why I'm voting for Final Fantasy VII as well. As much as I love Tony Hawk, I feel like that's if I'm not voting for Among Us, I'm not voting for Tony Hawk for the same reason because it's like 20 years old at this point.
That's bullshit because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 came out in September.
But like it's the same soundtrack as before, right? It's the same.
It's
music.
not. We actually
Really?
just talked about it just 5 minutes ago how they added stuff to it, but it's cool. I'm not voting for it. I'm just saying you're wrong.
Overall. I mean, overall, I feel like
Chris, you gotta vote.
When you Cyberpunk.
Cyber junk. Okay. Donovan.
I'll go Cyberpunk as well for music.
Bill.
I've been won over with Final Fantasy.
Fair. Josh.
As much as I want to stick with my vote for Wasteland 3, I'm gonna have to push Cyberpunk as well. I really love the way that they do the music in there.
Steve's not voting. Greg.
Final Fantasy 7.
Means that my vote is worthless. So I'm gonna vote for Bugsnax. Screw all you guys. Bugsnax gets 1 vote. Ghost Runner gets 1 vote. Age of Calamity gets 1 vote. Cyberpunk gets 1, 2, 3 votes, and Final Fantasy VII Remake gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes. Final Fantasy VII Remake is your Shacknews Best Music of 2020.
Hooray!
Nice.
It is decided.